Okay, I'm going to go ahead and get started. Good evening. Welcome to the July 20th, 2022 Mercer Island Arts Council regular video meeting. Time is now 6:32. I am Elizabeth Mitchell, Chair of the Arts Council. Tonight's Arts Council meeting is using video conferencing technology provided by Zoom. The video of this meeting is being broadcast live via Zoom and will be uploaded to the city's YouTube channel later this week. City staff, liaisons to the Arts Council, and other panelists are also participating in tonight's meeting remotely. Other public audience members may be listening to the meeting by telephone or online. Additionally, the city has opened up the community center to provide public space for viewing and participating in the meeting. Welcome to all, and thank you for joining us tonight. Board members, please ensure that your microphones are turned on for the roll call. Will staff please call the roll?
Yes. Jonathan Harrington?
Here.
Rachel Blum?
Here.
Daniel Becker?
Here.
Rosemary Moore? Unfortunately, I couldn't move her over. Suzanne Scone? Elizabeth Mitchell?
Here. As many of you know already, Anna Maya resigned her position last month. So on behalf of the Arts Council, I just want to take this opportunity to thank her for her service and her support. Tonight's agenda will not include in-person public appearances. However, individuals wishing to speak live during the appearances portion of our meeting may do so by telephone, via Zoom, or in person at the Mercer Island Community and Event Center, provided, however, they registered their desire to speak with the city admin staff by 4 p.m. today. Our city admin staff will call on you by name or telephone number when it is your turn to speak. City staff, is there anyone who signed up for appearances that wishes to address the board?
No, Chair, there is not.
Thank you so much. We're now going to move on to the department report, and for that, we welcome Ryan Daly, Recreation Manager.
Good evening, Arts Council. Great to see everyone. I have the pleasure of passing the department report off to Eleanor Knight, who will be your new Arts Council liaison. She will be taking over for me on the day-to-day support of the Arts Council. I'll still be remaining as the Recreation Manager, overseeing the overall departmental aspects or division aspects. But at this point, we will be handing it over to her, and she will be your primary contact as we move forward. So Eleanor, welcome and thank you.
Thank you. Glad to be here. Glad to be your new liaison. Please feel free to reach out to me if you need anything. And with that, I will be getting into the department report. I'll just share my screen. Okay. First, let's talk a little bit about summer celebration. I know a lot of you attended, and we were so happy to see you. Thank you to everyone who came out and enjoyed the festivities, and of course, thanks to our great sponsors. Obviously, we had the ribbon cutting ceremony for the new playground, which was great. So we were just really happy about how that event went. And with that, I'd like to bring up our summer celebration survey. So this is a really short survey that we put together about the different activities at summer celebration. It's been posted to the Let's Talk page and will be distributed through social media and via email. The survey is closing on Friday, July 29th. So we want all of our responses by then. You can follow this link here or go onto the Let's Talk page under current projects. So you can find the survey there. So MyBall has brought in a community flags project at Mercerdale Park. This began at summer celebration. A bunch of young artists came out and printed some patterns on these flags, and they're now hanging around at Mercerdale Park. There's more flags available for community participation. You can stop by MyBall Gallery between those times to pick them up and create them however you want. MyBall will also be at most of the Music in the Park events with more flags and some art projects for continued engagement with the community. So we're really excited about that. My ball is also at City Hall now. They've installed some 2D and 3D artworks by some local Mercer Island artists in City Hall. This is an extension of our partnership with My Ball to restart the art gallery program that is currently at the community center. So a huge thanks to Carol Whitaker, Judith Rowan, Claudia Zimmerman at My Ball for curating the exhibit, and thank you to Judge Gregory and Cheryl Lucero for opening the court as a new space to display art. Shakespeare in the Park is back. We're really excited to have this back at our park. So come out and join us. There's going to be 19 shows at Luther Burbank this summer. You can go on their website and see the full schedule. So a big thanks to For Culture and the Seattle Shakespeare Company for bringing this back. And of course, mostly music in the park. We had our first one last Thursday and one again tomorrow. This is at Mercerdale Park starting at 6. So come on out. It's going to be a good time. Weather's going to be beautiful. And of course, thank you to the Mercer Island Community Fund and For Culture for the support of this series as well. The Kirk Robinson Skatepark dedication is coming up. It's on Thursday, July 28th at 5 p.m. If you don't know Kirk Robinson, I believe Ryan has spoken about this before. A former resident and member of the fire department, just a great member of the community, served on the Parks and Recreation Commission. So this is a great time to come and honor him at the skate park dedication. The Aubry Davis Park Picnic Shelter is now complete, but a huge renovation replacement project. Did a great job completely redoing that. So you can now rent this structure. Visit online at mercerisland.gov/rental information to come out and use this. We're very excited to have this done and to start renting this again. And that is all. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. So moving on to our first item of regular business, we are going to review and consider approving meeting minutes. Board members may have a motion to approve the minutes of the April 20th, 2022 regular meeting.
So moved.
Thank you, Daniel. Is there a second?
I'll second.
I'm not sure who did first. I think it was Jonathan. Fantastic. So there's a motion by Daniel Becker and a second by Jonathan Harrington. Board members, please turn on your microphones, and will the city staff please conduct a roll call vote?
Jonathan Harrington,
Approve.
Rachel Blum,
Approve.
Daniel Becker,
Approve.
Rosemary Moore,
Approve.
Suzanne Scone, Elizabeth Mitchell.
Approve. So the motion passes and the minutes are approved. Our next item is the public art donation proposal. And for this item, we're going to welcome back Ryan Daly, Recreation Manager.
Good evening again, Arts Council. I'll be introducing this item and I'll be asking for a little help from Sarah as well for a bit of input. But during this agenda item, you'll be receiving a presentation from Burger Partnership on behalf of a potential donor that I'll be leaving the discussion up to them. They'll be providing a little bit more detail through the presentation on what this project may be. Right now, it's really in the idea phase. How this all came to be was in early 2021. You'll recall during the recreation reset period, I guess you could say, we were approached by a donor requesting to make a project donation. Unfortunately, during that period of time, we just didn't have the staffing capacity to actively engage and work with the donor to be able to collaborate on moving that process forward. And so what we ended up doing was, or what I should say, the donor ended up doing was engaging with Burger Partnership, which is a landscape architecture firm, to help develop their ideas and the goals for this concept to move forward. Within the last couple of months, Burger reached out to us on behalf of the donor, requesting to meet with our boards and commissions to present these ideas, to decide whether or not they would move forward with the potential of this project. I know that the staff report was a bit vague, We didn't provide a whole lot of details on what the project would be, and that was actually purposeful. The rationale for that was that the donor was requesting to present this idea and be able to answer questions and really receive feedback ahead of it going out, and maybe receiving misconceptions or preconceived notions about what the idea might be. So as we move forward, you're going to see the Parks and Recreation Commission as well as the Arts Council go on parallel tracks in receiving information on this project. And what our focus is tonight is really to receive the presentation and provide Berger with any input that the Arts Council may have, so that the donor could potentially go back and decide if this is a project that they would like to move forward with. This isn't a city project. It wasn't city originated. So this is a little bit different than maybe what we're used to. And the interesting part of this is usually when we receive a donation, or we are inquired about taking on a donation, it's usually something that's tangible, or we can view it right there. We're not there yet. This is still in the idea phase. And so this is simply a community member bringing forward, seeking input about the potential of bringing forward a donation in the future. So Sarah, I don't know if you want to provide any additional input before I pass it off to Laura with Berger.
Sure. So the only thing I will add, and I think Ryan, you've already really covered this, but just to reiterate that we do have an established process for accepting donations, and this includes public art donations. You'll see tonight this project kind of straddles a couple different lines in terms of public art and other elements. So, you know, there's a big piece that the Arts Council, that's why we want your feedback. So, you know, tonight, again, we're really just looking for input, questions. We may not have the answers tonight. Laura, who's with us from Berger, may not have the answers tonight, but we're really just looking for the feedback that can help inform whether or not the donor, who has invested substantial personal resources in this project already, you know, so they have the information they need if they want to move forward or not. As Ryan mentioned, he's going back to Parks and Recreation Commission with basically similar presentation as you'll receive tonight. I imagine it might be refined a little bit based on your feedback. And that'll be presented to PRC in September with essentially the same ask. You know, is this a project that you're supportive of? And if so, then we'll kind of give the green light to the donor to continue working on it as if they so choose. In the past, we have received a lot of public art donations. There's several works of art already in Aubry Davis Park that were donated to the city, most of them bronze sculptures. So this is a little bit different, but also very exciting. And as we kind of get further along the tracks, those two parallel kind of tracks that Ryan mentioned, you know, we're happy to kind of reconnect with you, refresh you all on the process, knowing that we have a lot of new members right now. So we're happy to, you know, help guide you guys if you decide that this is something you'd like to see pursued. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Laura Laney. She is the project manager with Berger Partnership. She's been working on this project in partnership with Guy Michelson, who I believe is a principal at Berger, and who is backpacking in the North Cascades tonight, which is what I will actually be doing tomorrow night. So hopefully, you know, Guy's paved a good trail for me. But Laura, please take it away.
Yeah, we can all be jealous of him being able to get away from screens and just have a nice remote vacation. Thank you for having me tonight. I'm really excited to present this. And let me share my screen here. Are we, oh, no, hold on. Is it sharing? Can you see it? Okay, great. Yeah, so as Ryan mentioned, we have had a community member step forward with a desire to do something incredibly meaningful in the form of an opportunity that aims to enhance Mercer Island's open space while providing for the community on an emotional level. This whole project has stemmed from their personal discovery for a need of a need for public space that really inspires, whether that be through individual introspection or having a place to come together. When we were first introduced to the project opportunity, our eyes were opened to a community in need, that even though Mercer Island is a society of abundance, there is a surprising amount of struggle. And that juxtaposition is something worth taking note of. Our donor is heartbreakingly intimately close with the trend of mental health struggles and burdens that are prevalent on the island. It is because of their experience, their tragedy, that a community in need has become a catalyst to create a physical space that welcomes all to gather, center themselves, find solace, humor, whatever it may be in their day-to-day life. Particularly now, as we work to pull ourselves out of a pandemic, we all know the past couple of years have been hard. Disease management literally required a culture of apartness. And now we have a goal, a desire to create togetherness and give ourselves the opportunity to retrain our ability to engage with one another. So this proposal you're about to see looks at how we address those themes. But first, we need a site. The Aubry Davis Lid Park Stacks. I'm sure all of you are probably familiar with this spot. When we first visited this location, the potential of the space was glaring us in the face. Like, we are landscape architects, of course, we're noticing these types of things. But it truly is an underutilized space begging for purpose in the heart of the community. There is power in this place. It is a hidden discovery perched up on a higher elevation with views. It is uninspired and frankly feels a little unnatural given the obvious infrastructure, but it has a powerful scale and it is cherished. One of the most striking things to our donor was the fact that they often see people out here deep in conversation, and there's potential to foster that environment. So in looking at the location, we wanted to make sure that we are consistent with the goals of the Aubry Davis Lid Park master plan. Arts and placemaking is a huge part of that plan. And when looking at the vision and core tenets that have been identified, we feel that they are right in line with our overarching themes and direction for the project. And after digging into the master plan even further, it was clear that the stacks were consistently identified as an asset to the park. You can see here these quotes highlight the opportunity associated with the infrastructure and underutilized space, focusing on themes we've already talked about, like gathering and immersiveness. Some other feedback not pictured here included creating something iconic with the stacks and that they could be a focal point and draw for people, which is exactly where we'd start. It starts with the stacks. They're an opportunity hiding in plain sight. The sheer scale of them draws you in when you're close, but to really become a focal point, we need color. This is an early diagram to show the impact bold color can have on these massive infrastructure elements. The second piece of the puzzle comes with words. One word used powerfully to create a magnetic element to engage someone's curiosity and pull them in. Now, in thinking about the meaning of this place and what we were trying to achieve by giving people a place to just be, words become the story. This is a collection of words. This collection of words, for example, evokes a feeling, but that story grows when the power of word is born from thought. And this is a collection of quotes, taking into account author and era diversity to show the themes of the power of thought. Above the quote is a single word, and that one word may or may not be directly in that quote, but encapsulates the narrative and the feeling that the author was trying to convey. We're proposing wrapping the base of the stacks with quotes of a common theme at a human scale level, all relating to that powerful single word up above. So all of a sudden, with the introduction of words, those stacks have become pillars of something special, representative, and meaningful. They become something to explore and something to touch and interact with. Which brings us to a new layer of discovery, one within the site itself. So we know the sheer scale of the stacks draws you into the space, but once inside, there are three that really become the internal focus. These would be our pillars, our feature stacks, for which our journey wants to move around and through, while the rest, the background stacks, are a more simplified version of those pillars, just painted with bold color to be the draw to the place. Orientation is key here. As a user walks through the space, we wanted them to circulate around these feature stacks and be guided onward to the next one. So say you're engaging with this one, you would walk around and see another one directing you forward. And so it continues, being able to circulate through the space. These journeys are circuitous, but no matter where you're at, they land you at a point of convergence. So you'll see this become a spot for intentional gathering here in a minute. The pathways would be simple stepping stones leading users through the site, but they also become a tool to emphasize our story and promote connection by being enriched with word and thought. And then the last layer becomes the need for amenity, having a place to sit, stand, gather, play. And they evolved from the need for forms that worked within that journey to accommodate multiple needs, including that of the need to get planting in here. We can't forget that we are on a lid. There is obviously infrastructure and structural things to be aware of. So having constructed platforms and benches to provide that amenity, but don't add significant weight, while also housing above ground planters to grow trees, ultimately to provide shade and more intimate areas, because those trees bring in a ceiling that adds a bit of more of a human scale to the project. So we'll look at a rendering here in a second, but this is a plan view of how these amenity forms started to take shape. And this diagram is showing how a user might use the space to reflect, relax, take time on their own or with another. All these little pink dots are people. If you remember that point of convergence in the pathway journey, we've utilized that point in space as what we like to call the council ring, a circular bench seating area that can be used for passive interactions. But knowing that this space is not only about the introspection and reflection for individuals, this diagram shows how a group might use the space to convene. An open lawn space for people to gather with the platform amenity right here gives the opportunity for a small stage if needed. So here is an overall perspective. It's a little bit easier to see and understand what's happening when all of these elements come together. You'll see these amenity elements situated within the site with the stacks in the background, being able to circulate around and through this platform area, which is that slightly raised area we were just talking about for a group gathering. And these amenity forms have taken shape to provide multiple uses of function, so sitting or gathering or lounging. There's a ramp that we included to make sure we have ADA access, and then that council ring situated right here in the center. This is a perspective from the other side. So you'll see these are background stacks back here with that bold color to be the draw, but really highlighting the fact that there's this open space that on a day-to-day basis would be just a place to walk or play for kids, but could be where you put your picnic blanket and have a group gathering with a place to be up. And then you start to see the planting come into the site. So this is a really immersive experience, and having those trees and a place to sit and reflect, it becomes a peaceful place to just be and is a peaceful place for the community to use. So what's next? As Ryan mentioned, we are looking for your general support on the project if you should desire to give it. If we continue moving forward with the proposal, we'll be confirming a donation amount. And what that will do for us is inform the ability to right-size the project. It's designed to grow. I've shown you the whole dream here, the whole story, but this project has the ability to evolve and be implemented in phases or pieces. We would start with the stacks, then add amenity, unify with paths, but it doesn't have to be done all at once. The goal is flexibility with value. So we are able to utilize resources in the best way possible, knowing that this project will grow with the community. And then the last thing I wanted to mention here was the acknowledgement of the site, its existing conditions, and that the project would require coordination with the city and WashDOT. All of the elements are on a lid. So we know that we need these developments to be superficial, easily removable, not wanting to add significant weight or change the structure in any way. Something that isn't the most exciting thing to think about, but we need to be cognizant of. And with that, Ryan, Sarah, I don't know if you have anything else to add, but before we open the floor for comments, questions.
Yeah, thank you, Laura. This is Ryan Daly, Recreation Manager again. Would you mind stop sharing for a second?
Yeah.
So thank you for the presentation. That was, I think, helpful to a lot of people to kind of see that project. And I didn't mention this at the beginning, and you mentioned it for me, and I appreciate that. WashDOT being the property owner for this location. So anything that happens on this property has to be approved by them. And Laura also mentioned the weight factor. So some of the plantings and things like that, those are all things that once you get toward a design in the future, that's when we engage with WashDOT to find out what those element impacts may be, and if they're even possible. So that's sort of a future conversation that would happen. But with this, I would pass it back to you, Chair Mitchell, to hopefully receive some feedback for Berger to take back to their potential donor.
Great, thank you so much, Ryan. Thank you, Laura, for a fabulous presentation. That was really interesting. I'm touched by the inspiration of the donor and interested to see where this could go and what it could develop into. The one thing I made a note of when you were presenting was I love the idea of the words, but in an idea to be inclusive within the community, I wonder if we would want to also include those words in other languages. Especially catering towards, the different cultures that we have on Mercer Island. And I liked the point you made right after that with the quotes being all different areas, coming from all different types of people and backgrounds and things like that. So I think just to make sure that we're including inclusivity in the design, but it's a lovely space and looks much more usable with the extra things added. I would like to open it up to any other Arts Council members that would like to talk. If you want to just raise your hand. Yes, Jonathan.
Yeah, this is an amazing concept. I am so happy that the donor is willing to consider something like this a gift to the island. And the need for a place to relax, talk, and meditate is very high on this island, which can be a very stressful place, especially for young people. And so we're very lucky to be offered this opportunity. And I really look forward to moving forward with this fabulous project.
Thank you, Jonathan. That sounds very encouraging. Anybody else want to weigh in? Yes, Suzanne. You're still muted, Suzanne. We can't hear you. Nope. Do you want to type it in the comments? All right, we're having technical difficulties with Suzanne's sound, but let's give her one more minute, see if she can figure it out.
It looks like she has IT on site.
I see that. That's nice. How about while you guys try and sort that out, I'm gonna go ahead and let Rachel talk.
Oh,
Wait,
problem solved. Thank you. Well, sorry about that. I couldn't get Zoom on my computer, then I moved to my phone and on and on. But anyway, I am just humbled by this, this offer to the community. Just sorry, but it's needed, and it would really provide something at this site, which really right now is kind of just a mud hole, to be honest. And I just guess I'm really touched with the sentiment behind it and kind of the education element of the words and the phrases. And also I have experienced similar sites with kind of the maze opportunity, which when you need some time, it gives you time to circulate in something, and it's very meditative. And I just think the architect did a wonderful job of considering all these things. So thank you.
Thank you, Suzanne. Yeah, absolutely. I think that the idea of a labyrinth is a very popular type of meditation thing that I know we have in other areas around Seattle and such. Rachel, you wanted to speak?
Yeah, thank you, Laura, for a fantastic presentation. I echo everyone else's sentiments. I think it's very inspiring, and I loved Suzanne use of the word humbling, to even be considered as a gift to the community. I think you'll get a lot of support from this group, and so I'm curious as to what type of specific feedback you or your team might be looking for, that we can help either answer today or think about for the future.
I think today we were just really hoping to gauge your reactions, and if this would just be willing, if you would be willing to consider this. Like, this is a non-standard type of donation, as Ryan mentioned. So just getting a gauge on the support levels, and if this is something that you all, the idea you love and would love to see this move forward and pursued, that is what we're looking for today, and that is awesome.
Wonderful. If no, Daniel wants to speak too. Go ahead, Daniel.
Yeah, I mean, like the other said, I think cool presentation. I think obviously very appreciative of the donor coming forward and looking at this. I mean, I will say just some feedback I think you're going to see from other people in the community, and Rachel said, this group I think is supportive of the arts in general. I think just general feedback, I think you're going to get people to push back on sort of the notion of these bold colors. I think there's a lot of people that are going to be concerned about like trying to do something that isn't the theme of a park. Like people want natural colors. I think you're going to get pushback on ground cover, and there's a lot of people who feel very strongly about the covering grass with non-natural surfaces. I mean, I think the trees are good. The trees are natural. I went by there earlier today just to get a feel for the space. Personally, I think the stacks themselves are worn down. I don't think they look great. I think that the idea of putting something on the stacks is definitely something that won't impact ground cover and would look cool, especially if there was I think you're more likely to get more support from the community if the colors weren't quite so strong. I mean, I think that if we're trying to design an art project, it looks cool. I think we're balancing a cool art project with community support in that. And if you wanted to try to propose something that would get community support, those are some of the items that I think might make it more successful.
Thanks, Daniel. Ryan, can you weigh in on that at all? Just because it's not city and it's owned by WashDOT, is it a different?
Yes, I'm happy to. Ryan Daly, Recreation Manager. Anything that we do there has to be approved by WashDOT. Currently, our agreement is for maintenance of the facility. So if we're going to paint the stacks, which are their stacks, we have to get that approval. I will say through the Aubry Davis master planning process, WashDOT was supportive of that, of painting the stacks. And as Daniel mentioned, who wouldn't be? They're getting a bit worn down. And so I do think the question of color does come into play. Nobody can ever agree on the right color for anything. So that is a challenge, obviously, to overcome. I will also mention that through the Aubry Davis master planning process, this was a challenging location to figure out what to do with. And when I say that, I mean, there was discussion around it potentially becoming a dog park, but there were many comments critical to it becoming a dog park. And so the master plan actually doesn't say a lot about it. It says that it needs to be further explored as to whether or not to become a dog park. And so I wouldn't say we're tied to anything in that manner at this point. And this is going to be part of the conversation with the Parks and Recreation Commission. And I think as we move forward deeper into this potential process, that's where you end up getting a little bit more of the community feedback. Now that it's been sort of daylighted that this is what could come, then you start to receive what those community comments may be. So I hope that sort of answers your question, that no, the city does not have final say. It's definitely WashDOT's approval that has to be sought.
I can also just add that there's kind of a history of a variety of projects in Aubry Davis Park, arts projects that we've partnered with WashDOT to achieve. So most recently, there was the mural project on West Mercer Way. There have been other donations, and then of course the outdoor sculpture gallery. They've been a big partner on that. So generally, I think that they are supportive of working with us on these types of projects. And like Ryan said, it really just takes a lot of coordination and probably early discussion, which I think is one of the reasons that we wanted to bring this to you all as soon as possible in order to get kind of a little bit better understanding of what types of conversations we may need to initiate with WashDOT going forward.
Great. I have two more comments, and then I think we'll move on to the next item on the agenda. Go ahead, Rosemary.
Yes, I very much want to echo what everybody else has said and thank the donor for such a generous and thoughtful idea and donation. And in general, I love the concepts that have been discussed. I would have certain points, nitty-gritty points that I would want to discuss or have people discuss before the final plan is authorized, but I don't believe we're at that stage yet. As to whether the paving stones are square or curved, for example. But as for Daniel's point, I think it seems to be a reasonably good balance between covering up the park with non-plants and retaining the park, but that again is something for discussion. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Rosemary. Jonathan, you had another comment to make?
Yeah, whatever the final project ends up looking like, I don't think I'm wrong to say that the great majority of people on this island definitely think something needs to be done with that space. And there's no way but up as far as I'm concerned in terms of transforming it. So I'm sure the donor knows the island, and they know that people have different opinions. But ultimately, fundamentally, I think, most people are going to support some kind of change. I wasn't part of the Aubry Davis planning project, but Ryan, would you agree with that?
Yeah, I would. Thank you for putting me right on the spot there. I do. I'll tell you from a staff point of view, this is a very interesting opportunity. And I call it an opportunity and I call it an idea right now because we're not to a design. And there's a lot of I have still a lot of questions from a staff member point of view that I know that a lot of you are asking right now. And so I think the opportunity is definitely there. I think the idea is definitely there, and I think would be supported by the majority of the island. But people are really tied to the color of a stack, and so that could be divisive. And so I think it is important that we look at that. And honestly, coming forward as a donation, we as staff or even as an arts council don't necessarily have a lot of say in the design process for something like this. What we do have, or what your group does have, is the ability to recommend or not recommend something to go forward. And I think that's where we're going to end up probably sometime in 2023, early 2023, that we'll be looking at something a little more tangible to really decide on, and maybe figure out what are the deal breakers, or find out from the donor where they welcome input or maybe where they don't. Because what really came across to me, and Laura, I think you provided this in a very excellent manner. This is sort of an emotional project for this individual, which kind of gave me goosebumps right there, but it really is. And so there are certain aspects I can imagine of this project that are going to need to stay with what they desire. And so finding out what those tweak areas might be really helpful to us down the road.
Absolutely. Thank you for that, Ryan. I think tonight's goal and purpose was just to receive a fantastic presentation by Laura. Thank you again. And just to show whether or not we support this proposal to move forward and to be developed by the donor. And I think that we all, it seems like we all do support that. Anne, did you want to make one final comment?
If I may, I don't know if I'm allowed to speak, but if I can throw in a couple of thoughts, just responding to this project being designed to address the youth needs in the community, to create some kind of a interactive component that might change over the years, engaging with the middle school and high school art students to maybe have a location for a mural. I personally have been working with the high school students over the last couple of years on that mural at the Boyd collection, just to try to make something happen for them. But I do realize that there's kind of a lack of space for that creative expression, which kind of goes along with dealing with mental health and community participation and that type of thing. So I would consider that notion that when you talk about the long-term aspects of it, it engages maybe every year or two, bring in the high school art club to design a mural and have kind of take ownership of some part of it. So something to consider.
Thanks for that feedback, Anne. And again, thank you, Laura, for your presentation. And we look forward to hopefully hearing from you again in the future.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks. Moving on, our next item of regular business is the Mercer Island Arts Summit Review. And for this item, we're going to welcome Eleanor Knight, Recreation Coordinator and the Arts Council Staff Liaison.
All right, we'll get right to it. This item was included as a summary and the complete survey results in the packet. So please refer to that. I'm not going to go through the entire summary and the survey results, just some key topics really quickly. Give me 1 second. All right, let's get started. So the goals of the Art Summit, again, this is just a refresher, was to bring together arts professionals, practitioners, and service providers, and then to discuss needs and priorities for future arts and culture programming on Mercer Island, and to establish and communicate clear next steps to continue moving collaboration and connection forward. So again, all of that, everything we talked about during the summit is in that summary report and also the survey results. So our key takeaways from both the actual summit and the survey. First, there's a need for communication in the arts community and between the community and city staff. So some of the things that were brought up include advanced knowledge of programs so organizations can avoid some scheduling conflicts between specifically arts events, and access to space. So specifically that communication between city staff and the community It would be helpful if the city could support access to existing facilities, including spaces to create art and teach art classes and showing art. And the second key takeaway was that there are still barriers to arts programming and events after the COVID-19 pandemic. This is something that we were seeking out as some information from this particular group, understanding what are some barriers to arts coming back after the pandemic. Some of the main things they mentioned was that there's less crowds coming out to arts programming, that they have less capacity for their staffing, for their personnel, to handle crowds and to handle things like online events, and the price of things like online events in comparison to ticket prices, and also re-engagement. So just encouraging people to come back to the arts after the pandemic. So for our next steps, we're looking at integrating Art Summit input and developing the 2023-2024 City Arts and Culture Work Plan. So the city is going to use this feedback to kind of collaborate with the Arts Council to confirm the arts and culture priorities, which will be discussed during the October regular meeting. The arts and culture priorities will inform the future work plan and budget planning, and the biennium process, which is underway, will continue this fall. So those are the main items. If you have gone through the summary and the survey, I would love to hear some feedback. And if you have any questions for me or for Ryan or for Sarah about this, that would be great.
Great, thanks so much, Eleanor. Those of us who were able to be there, it was a fantastic meeting. It was really great to hear from actual artists in our community in the feedback that we got both in the meeting and from the survey results. So that's fantastic. I would open up the floor if anyone has any comments. Otherwise, this is something we'll be discussing at the October meeting moving forward. Yes, Rosemary.
Yes, I was very sorry to miss the summit. I regret that. One question I have from reading the summary and the survey is whether it would be possible, and I can imagine there are reasons why not, but whether it be possible to offer city facilities to some of these arts groups, because there seems to be a recurring comment that we don't have a place to do things, to prepare. And so that just seemed the obvious solution, and I anticipate there may be a lot of good reasons why not.
I would love to respond if possible. This is Ryan, Recreation Manager. If that's okay, Chair, thank you. Absolutely possible. I think one of our challenges we haven't had in the past, or a challenge we've had ongoing, I should say, is the lack of policy and the lack of way to offer these opportunities. So what, I will be feverishly writing some things down, but what I would like to do, and I think this, as this Arts Council starts thinking about what our policy needs, and hey, we're gonna actually have to hear from me later tonight about the policy work group. So this is one of those items that is really helpful to add, and it's different from our general facility policies. It's something that we can add in there to really promote opportunities within the arts on Mercer Island. And so that might be something that the Arts Council deems as a work plan item for next year that we should jump into and work on. I'll tell you from a staff point of view, I'm 100% supportive of that. We're doing some really great things right now with MyVol, and I think there's ways to continue that type of a relationship across many different organizations. So that's my very long-winded answer to maybe a simple question.
Thanks, Ryan. I think it's definitely something that we should put on the work plan and something to look at in further meetings, how we can make more spaces accessible for people to use in the community for the arts. Any other comments before we move forward? Okay, great. Thank you again, Eleanor. And the next item of business is the annual Arts Council bylaws review. And so I'm going to bring you right back up.
Yes, okay. So I'm going to be showing a Excel spreadsheet that has all of the suggested or recommended changes to the bylaws. I emailed this out earlier. It was also, these are the same bylaw changes that were sent out in the staff report. 1 second. Okay, here we go. So let me zoom in a little bit and we'll go one by one. I'm just going to ask that we vote with thumbs up, and then someone can tell me, because I can't see everybody, if we reached our number. So the first recommended change to the bylaws was just the inclusion of these statements into the Article 3 organization, Section 3 committees. The inclusion of committees may be appointed by the Arts Council chair at any time or be appointed by a majority vote of members present at a regular Arts Council meeting, assuming there is a quorum. And also the statement, community chairs and members assume duties for a duration established by the Arts Council and are responsible for organizing committee meetings outside of the Arts Council regular meetings. Staff agrees with this change to bylaws, and this bylaw aligns with current practices. So if we could have a vote there. Ryan, I hope you're keeping count.
So I'm seeing mostly thumbs up, but I think, did someone have a comment first? Or was it just thumbs up? I can't see because you're all really tiny.
I saw just thumbs. But if anybody has a comment, right now is a great time to jump in. But I did see, I
Absolutely.
think, unanimous thumbs there.
Great. Okay, we'll move on to number 2. Scroll, there we go. So this was submitted by staff, Article 4, operations, Section 1 meetings. This is just changing regular meeting time from 6:30 to 5:30. This was brought forward by staff. I believe Ryan's going to talk a little bit about why we are moving this up in time.
I am happy to chime in here. Just a little bit of background. This has been a bit of a topic of conversation back and forth over the last maybe 2 years. 5:30 is the time that the Parks and Recreation Commission meets. Many of those members desired to meet earlier. Originally, they were planning on meeting at 6:30 as well. How this affects staff, and I'll speak to this just very briefly. Currently, right now, we have staff who, the community center closes at 7. But we still have staff here managing the front desk because we're allowing or encouraging staff patrons to come in and view the meetings. So if they were to want to provide public comment or view the meeting from a meeting room, that's an opportunity that we provide here. So by offering the meeting by an hour earlier, that cuts back on our staffing resources that we would need to operate that meeting. So just throwing that out there, but I will say that this is not something that for staff is a make it or break it item. This is really at the pleasure of the Arts Council on what works best for you as a group. And staff is happy to accommodate where needed.
Thanks, Ryan. I guess, can we just get a show of thumbs if people are okay with this? Looks good to me.
It's good. Great. Okay. The next recommended change was submitted by Councilmember Daniel Becker. The recommended change from election of officers in January to the election of officers during the July meeting. This would align election of officers with the first meeting after the appointment of new officers. New members.
That makes more sense to me, but does anybody have any comments or feedback?
Can I just speak to the suggestion here?
Absolutely.
And when I said this, I said it sort of as half as a question, half as a suggestion. My question was whether there was a specific reason for us to do it in January. And so if somebody knows of a reason, I wouldn't necessarily object to that. And I also think that, like, I would hope that the chair and vice chair continue serving until the end of the next cycle. If we actually were to propose this, it just seemed like this is what the rest of the boards were doing. And as they said, like, aligns with the new members that start at the 5/31 cycle.
Yeah, and it makes sense too if members' terms end, in May or whatever it is. That seems to make a lot of sense to me. So Thanks for that feedback, Daniel. That's helpful. If there's no other questions, I think we could get in Sarah. Yes.
So I'm happy to just respond to Daniel's question, provide a little more context about why it is the way it is now, but I think that I think it's a great idea to probably adjust it. Previously, previous arts councils had considered changing to align with the other boards and commissions that also elect their officers in the summer meetings. Previous arts councils were just concerned that someone new coming on into the group would be, wouldn't feel comfortable electing a new officer at their first meeting. So that was really, I think that was part of the primary reason why they hadn't changed it. So I do think that, because we've moved to a quarterly meeting schedule, there is more opportunity kind of in between meetings to meet with new members, get them up to speed, have them meet current members and build some more of that comfort as well. So they aren't just, while they would be coming into their first meeting, it wouldn't necessarily be like a shock to the system that they hadn't met anyone or up to speed or anything like that. So that is just kind of the context of why previous decisions had been made.
Of course, Sarah, everyone will have met at the summer celebration.
Exactly.
Go ahead and thumbs up. I think we're good unless there's any other comments. Thanks, Eleanor. You can move on to the next one.
Okay, great. Final one, this was submitted by Councilmember Jonathan Harrington. This is under Article 2, Duties and Responsibilities. It's the changing of the language here from enjoyment of the fine arts to enjoyment of the arts. This change in language reflects the goals of the Arts Council to support arts and culture on the island.
Thumbs up. Thank you for that, Jonathan. I only see 3 thumbs. I need someone else to thumb.
There we go.
Okay.
Great. Done.
Fantastic. So board members, may I have a motion to adopt the Arts Council bylaws as amended and pending review by the city clerk?
I will move for that.
Thank you, Rosemary. Is there a
Second.
Who seconded? Daniel, was that you? Great,
Yep.
fantastic. All right, so there's a motion by Rosemary Moore and a second by Daniel Becker. Board members, does anyone have any questions or comments before we vote? Okay, fantastic. If you can turn on your microphones, will the city staff please conduct a roll call vote?
Jonathan Harrington,
Approved.
Rachel Blum,
Approve.
Daniel Becker,
Aye.
Rosemary Moore,
Approve.
Suzanne Scone,
Approve.
Elizabeth Mitchell.
Proof. Motion passes. Also, I just want to say that I appreciated your eye, and maybe we should have like a talk like a pirate arts council theme sometime, maybe like in October. That'd be a good time, right? Okay, sorry. Moving on. Our last item of regular business is the Arts Council planning schedule and committee update. So we're going to welcome back Ryan Daly, Recreation Manager.
Good evening, everybody again. Before I share this, I'm not going to have a chance to add in that pirate themed meeting yet, as you proposed, Chair. But allow me to share this, and I want to talk a little bit about the planning schedule, and then I'm going to talk just briefly about committees, take any input that this group may have there. I will ask Sarah to provide some input on some public art conversations that we're going to need to have in the very near future. So with that, allow me to share this very quickly, which always goes perfectly for me. All right, is that showing up for everybody? Okay. Ooh, cruising through the year. So here we are in July, and those were the conversations we had today. And you'll see this bright yellow ribbon there in the middle. What staff is going to be requesting, and I'm hoping to receive, I would love to see 6 thumbs up today, is the addition of a special meeting in September to talk about the Aubrey Davis Trail Safety Improvement designs or design, and specifically the art elements. Receive an update on the 30% dock design at Luther Burbank. And then also to move forward with establishing a public art committee so that that group can help to steward these projects and bring that information back to the group as a whole as we move forward. So Sarah, I don't know if you would be willing to talk a little bit about that before we talk deeper on the other committees that will be moving forward.
Yeah, thanks, Brian. So the Aubrey Davis Trail project and the Luther Burbank Dock projects have been brought forth to you all previously. So the hope is that, we'll engage you all again at this stage of the design and start to have a more concrete conversation around what public art elements or other placemaking elements may be incorporated into the eventual project. As a reminder, both of these projects have 1% for art components. So that means that 1% of the project budget is allocated for either a public art element or other kind of arts element directly related to the project, or to support a future project, either by banking the funding in our 1% fund or identifying another project nearby. So what we would like to do, because we have both these projects and potentially other projects, you just heard another one, a potential donation that was presented tonight. We'd like to restart the Public Art Committee, which is a committee that we had pre-COVID, and engage a few members really closely in stewarding these projects, like Ryan said. So that would likely include some smaller committee meetings through the fall, working with me and Paul West, who is the CIP project manager lead on both of these projects. And then coming back to the Arts Council, potentially early next year, probably not asking you all to turn anything around by October. So probably at the January meeting or another meeting in 23, coming back with formal recommendations related to public art components of those CIP projects. So you get a lot of time with Paul and me, and hopefully we will get to a good recommendation for either potential projects or something else related to what to do with that 1% fund that will be coming from both of these CIP projects.
Thank you, Sarah.
No problem.
And so Sarah talked a little bit about that September meeting and where we'd be going. Just to touch on the October meeting, which would be scheduled as our last meeting of the year, we'd be talking about some year-end items. We'd be hopefully establishing that 6-year spending plan committee for the 1% fund to dive deeper into that, as well as continuing the conversation on the Aubrey Davis art elements and hearing an update from the policy committee. My anticipation, and we'll talk about the committee work here in a second, would be prior to that October meeting, doing some very focused work on the policies so that we can start to develop and get a reaction from the full Arts Council on what those might be. And then we'd also be talking about the 2023 planning schedule, starting to lay out our year for 2023. And I'll tell you that that's going to roll into a 2024. So it will be sort of this longer term outlook that quite honestly, I feel really good about as a manager, in that we haven't had that opportunity necessarily to speak about the future, because it's been much more unknown up until maybe unfortunately the last couple of months. And so that's a really exciting conversation for us to take a little bit more of a longer term outlook. And we'd also be talking about the 2023 arts and culture work plan and what are those specific items that staff is going to be working on, and also talk about what the priorities of the Arts Council are through that meeting. So happy to take any questions on the planning schedule and where we're headed with that. This is, I will apologize now, these are some major items that you are going to be talking about as we end the year, which is good. That's what we need, and that's really the focus of this group, and it has been since we got restarted coming out of COVID. So any questions? Happy to answer.
I also would just add in really quickly there, Ryan, is that while the last regular meeting will be in October, it doesn't necessarily mean that the work ends. So that's part
Right.
of the reason we're, spinning these committees back up. And our goal is to continue keeping you all engaged through the end of the year and into 23. So really just looking for, that assistance to kind of represent the full body, and there will be other opportunities for the full council to weigh in at future regular meetings next year too.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Committees.
Thanks,
Allow me to
Brian.
talk on those very briefly. First off, the Arts Summit Committee. My anticipation is that the chair would sunset that committee, and then we would be potentially, as we've talked about, adding a couple more here in the next couple of months. But we do have a policy committee and we do have a special events committee. I'm going to take the blame on this one for why we've been a little bit slow. I will say that maybe Ryan's eagerness to move things forward were larger than his resources. But as you've seen, I think through this meeting, obviously, Eleanor is now up to speed and is on with us and moving things forward very quickly. And so for me, I really appreciate that. And that gives Sarah and myself a little bit more of an opportunity to dive in on specific items and work plan items for the Arts Council and Arts and Culture for Mercer Island in general. So what I'm going to be in need of for both of these committees is for us to establish a chair and an individual point of contact that staff can work with to arrange these meetings so that we can start to get the ball rolling and get some of these work plan items checked off and moving forward so that we can bring them back in October to the commission or to the Arts Council as a whole. So I would leave it to Chair Mitchell to decide how we want to move forward with establishing chairs for those respective groups, knowing full well that we do have at least 2 more committees coming forward, probably around that September-October timeframe.
Awesome. Thanks, Ryan. So I think that we have, as it stands right now, there are 3 people in one committee and 3 people in another committee. And yes, the Arts Summit Committee actually just shifted the people from that over to the Planning Events Committee because their work was done, and added Daniel to that. So moving forward with this, is there, I would encourage everyone to email and reach out unless anyone would like to step up currently now on the spot while I'm staring at you.
And I'd be happy to announce who those committees are. I don't know if we've done that necessarily publicly or if anybody reads the staff reports that we put out, but allow me to share real quick who's on those. And so for the policy committee, those are Arts Council members Suzanne Scone, Jonathan Harrington, and Rosemary Moore. For the special events committee, that consists of Chair Elizabeth Mitchell and council members Rachel Blum and Daniel Becker.
Thanks, Brian. Is anyone interested in serving as the committee chair to work directly with staff on this new committee? Daniel.
Are you saying on the existing committees that we're on as the chair, or a different committee?
Are you?
Staff
Go
would
ahead
be
and
asking for
clarify
the currently structured committees.
Okay,
The
she said
future
the new.
committees, we'll address that then.
You said the new
Well, I
committee,
thought
so I didn't know.
we were adding another committee. So are you? So please clarify, Ryan.
So at this point, we don't have another committee established. We are looking to the future that there likely will be one when we get there for public art. At this point, what staff would be desiring is for us to start moving the current committees, the policy committee and the special events committee, moving that work forward and establishing a chair for those respective committees.
Thanks for that clarification. So do I have a member that would like to step up to be the person to work directly with staff for the policy committee? Rosemary?
Certainly willing to.
Fantastic, thank you. So Rosemary will be the go-to person for that. I already deal a lot directly with staff, so I'm happy to, Suzanne, did you also want to throw your name in the hat? No, okay.
No.
I already deal directly with staff a lot. I'm happy to be the go-to person for the events committee unless Daniel or Rachel would like to step up to that position.
Elizabeth, can I email you and Ryan and Daniel? I am happy to support the effort. I just have some questions about sort of timing, timeframes and time commitments, but
Absolutely.
definitely happy to be one of the people supporting the effort on a greater level.
Okay, so I thank you for that, Rachel. That's fine. I'm happy to take on the committee chair for the events since I already deal so much with staff, and Rosemary will take on the other one, and then that's dealt with and done. Moving on. Ryan, did you also want a confirmation on the September meeting?
I would love to see thumbs. We don't have a date, so what I'd be doing is reaching out and finding out what works for everybody, and putting something together at that point. So we would have Sarah and Paul West being staff members at that meeting, as well as Eleanor and likely myself also. So there's some wrangling of schedules to occur on this one, but I will send out a poll and find out what works for everybody.
So in theory, if people can make it work with their schedules, are we all open to an additional meeting in September? Thumbs up, down, or sideways? That looks like a thumbs up for you there.
Awesome. Thank you. Sincerely,
Thank
this
you.
is helpful for us to move things forward.
Was there anything else that you wanted to accomplish in regard to committee information, organization, or otherwise, Ryan?
No,
You sure? Okay.
I don't think so.
I'm sure I missed something. So, and so then we'll move on to any other business. Do we have any other updates this evening?
Looks like Suzanne has her hand up.
Yes, Suzanne.
I do have a question about the special meeting topic of art at Luther Burbank Docks and Aubry Davis Park, talking about the 1%. So I guess to start off, sooner than later, I guess I would like to know what 1% of those projects would be in a number, and also a reminder of what we have in our fund. And just to give us some, I don't know, information.
Yeah, definitely. We can definitely get that for you. And I also
assume that the fund would be available. I mean, these are iconic locations and an iconic opportunity. And it might be that, I mean, my thoughts are that it's a good time to put those funds to use. As I've advocated before, no one enjoys the money in the bank. It does, it doesn't do anything for the arts community or the greater community.
And I think you raise a good point as well, Suzanne. I know we have several new members, and we haven't done necessarily any 1% projects with you all yet. So we could also, I'm happy to work with Paul to kind of do a very brief primer on the 1% fund, including, those numbers that you're requesting, but overall just how it works and what the process would look like going forward. So I'll make sure that we incorporate that into the conversation.
Thank you.
Sarah, I think that, sorry, I'm jumping in again. I think that's a great idea. And I also want to do that for the Parks and Recreation Commission. There were some questions that came up in our joint meeting regarding the 1% fund and the role of the Arts Council versus the role of the Parks and Recreation Commission. So I do want to be very clear with what those respective roles are. So I will get with you and we'll make sure that comes up at their September meeting as well.
Thanks, Brian. Jonathan, did you have a comment or question? You're muted.
So can I address a new possible discussion item for the future?
I'm going to look to Ryan to ask if that's something that we want to include in this meeting or something that we want to put forward for a future meeting.
This Councilmember Harrington has reached out to me over the last week, and we had some really great conversations. I would encourage this to be something that to highlight an idea to come forward. I don't know that we would necessarily have an opportunity to make decisions tonight, But I think it's a good concept that we could bring forward, and if we could be looking for thumbs on this one as well. If there's some additional work or some additional items that would like to come back for that September or October meeting. This is sort of one of those opportunities that it gives us as a group to talk about what we may want to add to the work plan or to the planning schedule in the future. So
All right.
staff would be
fantastic.
happy.
Thanks, Ryan. Jonathan, please go ahead and share.
Okay, I appreciate Ryan, your help and counsel during this. I wasn't sure how to bring up a new idea. I'm new, so I hope this isn't too inappropriate just to throw out some new ideas. So actually, I'm interested in proposing the establishment of a Arts Council Diversity Subcommittee. And the reasoning behind this is, the city has been increasingly interested in addressing diversity issues. My family, we have a multicultural background. My wife and child are Chinese Americans. We have a lot of friends who are, members of, diverse backgrounds in the community. And I think there's a feeling that maybe there could be more of an effort on the part of the city and maybe in the area of arts and culture specifically to provide more opportunities for different diverse groups to express themselves. And so one event in particular, which was sponsored by the city that really was very moving for me was, so we have this Let's Talk Mercer Island community conversations process, and one of them focused on Asian Americans and Asian American students in the schools. And some of the students made some very moving statements about their experiences, being students in the school district and some of their challenges. So I wanted to see if there was an interest in creating some kind of institutional platform for giving diverse groups on the island a way to communicate with the city and with the Arts Council about what they would like to see the Arts Council do. So I had put together a very short statement, which I'll send around. I don't think we're not ready to vote on anything or make decisions. I simply want to bring up this idea. I'll send the proposal around, people can comment, and maybe we can bring it up next time. So the statement very briefly is the Arts Council Diversity Subcommittee actively promotes and facilitates arts and culture related partnerships, networking opportunities, projects, and creative work that celebrate the growing diversity of Mercer Island. Residents and visitors from all backgrounds should feel welcome and included in our community. So the whole idea is, focusing on inclusion, which is a stated actually objective that is in the PROS plan under arts and culture. If you look at goal 6 from the PROS plan, it specifically says objective 6.3 that the Arts Council should collaborate with diverse groups to ensure incorporation of art in public spaces through a lens of diversity, equity, and inclusion. So that's the spirit of this idea. Now, exactly what the final wording will look like, or whether or not this is even the best approach, we can discuss it. We have a couple months. So I just wanted to start that discussion. I really appreciate your time. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask now, or I'm going to send this proposal out and we can discuss or during the next few months.
All right, thank you so much for that, Jonathan. I think it's a really interesting idea to add a subcommittee to deal with diversity. I would hope that the Arts Council is just doing this all the time and that we don't necessarily need a subcommittee, but definitely open to that idea. Did any other Arts Council members want to weigh in there? Yes, Suzanne, thanks.
Yeah, thanks for thinking about that, Jonathan. And I would say, rather than emailing us directly, please send that through staff. Let staff send that out to us. I think that's a city procedure. We don't collaborate in the background. And the other thing is, I noticed, or you are on the policy committee, and that looks like a really good fit to institutionalize that. And, you know, that would certainly be one place to put it and then bring it forward through that committee as well. And then it will outlive any subcommittee and hopefully, you know, exist as time moves forward. So thank you.
Well, thank you for your comments and your wisdom from being on this committee for a while. Yes, so I have been communicating with Ryan, and I didn't want to send anything out directly, and so I will definitely be working through Eleanor in the future about you know, any future ideas or proposals.
Fantastic, thank you. I think we definitely want to make sure that we are not making any groups feel excluded on the island and that all of our arts are inclusive. So thank you for that, Jonathan. Is there any other business or items to discuss? No.
I just want to say, Eleanor, nice job. Thank you for stepping up. Huge help to me as the recreation manager and taking a burden off. That just allows me to sit back and enjoy mostly music in the park tomorrow night. So I hope
Music in the park, just music.
I hope to see you all out there enjoying the music and the great weather. And thank you for this meeting. It was, I believe we got a lot of great input back from the staff side. So thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you, Ryan, Sarah, Eleanor, Raven, and the Arts Council. There being no other business to come before the Arts Council, the time is now 7:54 and the meeting is adjourned. However, as a reminder to members, please stay seated until city staff has terminated the Zoom broadcast. Good evening and stay safe and healthy.